Welcome on in to the First Round Fantasy Podcast, your home for second round advice. That's the second straight week. My timing has been off, man. What can I do to get better? I guess I just have to get better. I'm here with Demont Ricks and Jacob Barley. How are we doing today?
What's up, everybody? How's it going?
That was the greatest.
Oh, thank you.
That was the greatest podcast intro of all time, Gabe.
You know what? I try, and sometimes I feel like if I put too much effort into it, people are going to be like, this guy's putting way too much effort into it.
You can just be like the Blueface, but a podcast intro. Just off beat.
What's a Blueface podcast intro?
Well, he doesn't rap on beat. And you don't.
Oh, like Blueface, baby?
Yeah.
You mean that guy?
Yeah.
I know rappers. Dude, yeah, we used to jam to a song. If you can tell how old we are, we were around. I don't know, dude. I feel like people that watch this podcast might be a little younger. I don't know. But, yeah, I know who Blueface is. We used to
Gabe, you didn't get the Royal Blue Shirt memo?
No one tells me anything around here anymore.
Wrong group chat. My bad.
Yeah, I see how it is. All right. Well, welcome in again to the First Round Fantasy Podcast. Today, we are talking about our coveted QB rankings. This is exciting. This is the first time we've ever done something like this. I can't wait to talk about it. Jacob and I are essentially going to duke it out. Although, after looking at yours and looking at mine, we definitely have some similarities, but we also have major discrepancies, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. Demont is putting on, what do judges wear? A veil? No. They have a hammer.
They wear a black cloak. I don't have a black cloak.
It's not a cloak. They don't wear a cloak, do they?
I think they would consider that a cloak. I mean,
isn't it like a robe? I think it's a robe.
I think it's a robe, yes. A robe and a hammer. What's the other word for hammer?
But that's like
gavel.
Gavel and robe on for Demont.
We need a first round fantasy gavel. That's the next purchase.
Yeah, because you know why? We also do book it downs too. That boom, boom, book it down. All right, we'll have to invest in one.
Boom, boom.
With that being said, we don't have any hype noise news today. So if you guys want to take a second, any interesting news, it doesn't have to be football related since I don't have any hype news before we jump into these QB battles. Suns are going to be in the NBA Finals. That's kind of dope, man. I'm totally rooting for them.
Easiest route ever. They had the easiest route in like the last decade to the finals.
Well, they beat the Clippers, and then they beat the Nuggets, and then who's the first team they beat? The Lakers. That's not too easy. They had the MVP and Jokic, LeBron James and AD. Well, AD was injured, right?
Injured.
Murray injured. No Jamal Murray. Yeah. No Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah.
But still mad props to the Suns though. With all the teams left, I'm rooting for Chris Paul to win a championship. That's all.
I'd rather have Giannis win than Chris Paul.
Oh, that's hurtful, dude. Why? What's your reasoning for that?
I don't like Chris Paul. Never have.
I like Giannis, but I feel like I kind of want to just.
Demont, like you and Chris Paul remind me of each other, so I don't know why you don't like him.
I don't know if
that was like a compliment or a dig.
It has nothing to do with your skin color either. It's just you guys.
All right.
I mean, I was.
No, but look, I respect Chris Paul. You guys don't.
Here's Demont.
Chris Paul is one of the best point guards to ever play, but I just don't like him.
You don't like his attitude?
No. Just I don't. He's so good. I don't like him. It's like how people
I get it.
Well, he's not that good. He never won an NBA Finals, so this is his first time there.
I mean, Dirk's still better.
Yeah, but Dirk won an NBA.
Well,
yeah,
duh.
He's 7-11, dude.
Nobody's debating that.
Anyways, we're going to get to what we kind of know better, and that's fantasy football. So let's talk about it, boys. Specifically, QB rankings. We're starting at the top. We're going to kind of run through our top 25, maybe our top 30. We're not like those other podcasts where they break it up into like 3 episodes. We're just going to shoot your mouth. That sounded weird. We're just going to
shoot your mouth.
We're gonna politely deliver our knowledge to you in our rankings.
To their mouths.
To their ears.
Their ears,
Gabe.
No, you're a kinky dude. The ears?
Why is it so awkward? All right. Anyways, we're starting at the top. Jacob, stop laughing, guys. Focus up. We got a podcast to do.
All right.
With that being said, like I said, Jacob and I will duke it out, discuss it, debate it, and Damon will find out basically which side he likes better, and he will make his ruling accordingly. So we hope that he is unbiased, just like our podcast promotes itself to be, and we will move on from there. With that being said, we're going to start with the top 5, and I'm not going to go 5 to 1, because that confuses everybody. I'm just going to go 1 through 5.
Yeah, please don't.
And then Jacob, you can give us your 1 through 5, and we don't have to give anything because we already know the bullet points that we're going to talk about. So let's just hit my 1 through 5 first. And that is, I know it's going to surprise some people. I have a few points. We'll see if they're good enough. That's Josh Allen at number 1, followed by Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Dak Prescott, and Kyler Murray. That rounds out my top 5. To start, Jacob, what are your top 5?
So I noticed looking at our top 10, for the most part, well, actually, let me say our top 8. Our top 7 are all the same guys in different order, which I think happens a lot because everybody typically has the same top players. But then once you get to past 10 is when it starts to get interesting. But my top 5 are Patrick Mahomes, number 1, Josh Allen, number 2, Lamar Jackson, number 3, Dak Prescott, number 4, and then Russell Wilson, number 5.
Ooh, Russell Wilson. I didn't actually – well, yeah, I did see that one.
And we should probably try to share these with Demont somehow. Can he see our rankings?
Just put them in the chat. I can look at it.
Yeah, give him a link.
So, no, you just type it in.
Yeah.
So do you guys – with that top 5, is that just one big tier? Or it goes Mahomes, Allen, then a drop-off, right? There's a drop-off.
Well, for me, those are the top 2 for sure.
But they're the top 2 for sure, but is there a tier change?
Yeah, no, actually, for me, no, because I have all of my top 5 QBs that I have projected out so far. The top 3, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, and Lamar Jackson, they're all separated by a matter of points. I think Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes are separated by 5 or 6 fantasy points combined. So it's not a huge jump. I don't expect someone to just last year, Josh Allen had 20 plus more fantasy points than any other fantasy QB. And Patrick Mahomes was great, and he missed 2 games. If he would have played 2 games, Patrick Mahomes probably would have been QB1 overall for fantasy. But that's part of my argument here today because that's where our first discrepancy lies, and it lies at the top. Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes. I'll lay the foundation for why I feel Josh Allen should be and will be the number 1 overall QB for fantasy, just like he was last year. All right? And that is, first and foremost, let's look at the rushing capabilities of both quarterbacks. Josh Allen, over the last 2 years, he had 102 rushing attempts last year for 421 and 8 touchdowns. In 2019, he had 108 attempts, I should say, for 510 rushing yards and 9 rushing touchdowns. Mahomes, he's never come close to that. He rushed for 62 times in 2020 and 40-something times in 2019. The rushing capability clearly goes to Josh Allen. A couple of weeks ago, Jacob and I were talking about how touchdowns in general are one of the hardest things to predict in terms of, fantasy success, right? You just can't predict touchdowns. They're so unpredictable. Josh Allen's put quite a repertoire together in his first 3 seasons, where the last 2 specifically, 8 touchdowns and 9 touchdowns. Even if I lowball it and say he comes in with 6 rushing touchdowns or even 7 rushing touchdowns, when we talk about Superflex League specifically, quarterback touchdowns are only 4 points per TD. Rushing touchdowns are where it's at. So if Josh Allen can get, 8 or 9 rushing TDs, which I don't have him projected to be, but if he can get 6 or 7 and, increase – look at the massive jump last year he did in terms of yardage, accuracy, all of those things. I mean, not much changed either. Sure, John Brown departs, Sanders comes in. I wouldn't consider that a wash. I like John Brown more than an aging Emmanuel Sanders. Hopefully someone, rises in that running back field, and I think it's going to be Singletary. I don't think Zach Moss did a lot to prove that he should be number 1 there. So hopefully they give Singletary a little bit more opportunity. But when you look solely at rushing capabilities, it is Josh Allen. And why are guys so interested in guys like Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson, and Josh Allen? And now Jalen Hurts. Because they love to rush. and they want those guys that are going to rush, get all that yardage, and possibly get a few touchdowns as well. My other reason, and I'll be quick with this one because it's not a very good one, but it's something that you have to think about. Over the last 2 years, Josh Allen has played a complete 16-game season, each of the last 2 seasons. Mahomes, he's missed games. He missed 2 games last year and one game the year before that. Now, you might be saying to yourself, that's not a lot. But the track record shows that, hey, Mahomes misses time occasionally. So I'm going to go with the guy who, although loves to run the ball, and it kind of contradicts itself because quarterbacks who usually run are usually the first to get hurt. But Allen's played 16 full games last 2 seasons, and we're going into a 17-game season. I like Allen for the sense that, hey, he's going to give me a full 17, and I don't know. I don't think Mahomes will. Maybe I have him missing 1 game, 2 games. I don't know. But as of right now, I do have him missing 1 game for whatever reason it may be, and that's why they're so close, too, at the top. So you have to take account injuries when you consider this, and, Josh Allen has a track record of playing a full season. Mahomes doesn't. Very quick, very to the point. I hope that was good. Jacob, you're on.
That was great, Gabe, by the way.
Thank you.
I don't know about quick.
I failed debate class.
Yeah, that wasn't quick, but that was like.
It wasn't quick, but it was good.
Okay, thank you.
So, I don't have much argument against you because I'll tell you what, this was maybe the most difficult one to do is decide who I'm putting at number 1 because I was going back and forth between Josh Allen and Mahomes, and it's very close. But to me, the best quarterback in the NFL doesn't always equal the best fantasy quarterback. But to me, I can't bet against Mahomes. Like if there's only a few guys in the league who I think has the potential to put up 5,000 yards and 50 touchdowns, and we know Mahomes could possibly do something like that. And we also know, if you guys have watched a lot of Chiefs games, he doesn't ever want to come out of the game. Even when the only time he missed those games is due to injuries. And they're not like fluke injuries because he's injury prone. He actually gets injured and hit in the game. So that's why he misses games. But to me, even if they're blowing somebody out, if you guys watch the Chiefs games, they just keep laying it on the team. They do not slow down. They just keep going at it and padding stats. It's kind of rude. I don't know why they do that, but they do. There's so many games where Mahomes could come out of the game, but I know he's telling Andy Reid, no, leave me in. And I forget which game it was. Was it a regular season game or a playoff game where he got hurt and he was arguing on the sideline with Andy Reid about him not being able to go back in the game? I think it was towards the end of the season, and then he missed the following game, Gabe.
Yeah.
Is the one you're talking about. So I know Mahomes wants to stay in no matter what. In the games no matter what. And I get it. Obviously, if you look at the past 2 years, he technically is more injury prone than Josh Allen. But
it's not my best argument, all right?
I think that and Josh Allen definitely has more rushing upside, but I think Mahomes is just so damn good, and he has overall better weapons. Look, Josh Allen has Diggs, who's amazing, but if you talking about Kelsey, Hill, the other role-playing receivers, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Mahomes has more weapons. He's the better pure quarterback, so I'm going to bet on that, and that's why I put him number 1.
I mean, last year, you can't take anything away from Mahomes in 2018. The dude was on fire. 50 touchdowns, like who does that, right? Last year, the last 2 years, they've been fairly close in terms of touchdown dependency. Last year specifically, Allen threw 36 and Mahomes threw 37, so it was only 1 touchdown less. Where Mahomes really takes that jump is yardage, man. Because when you have a guy like Chuck Kelsey, a tight end that can get downfield, and you have a guy like Tyreek Hill who can get downfield, like you're going to rack up the yardage. And when you look at their stats individually, Mahomes is just like to the moon in terms of yardage, dude. 4,700 yards, 4,600 yards. It's insane. Josh Allen is a little bit more tempered. And you're right. I think that Mahomes has better weapons, but I just don't know. I like the rushing upside of Allen. And here's one more sense, because we haven't really talked about the running backs, and Damon, you can judge after this. But, everybody expects Clyde Edwards-Helaire to, take a jump this year. I don't know if you guys have heard it, but I hear it everywhere. Because last year he was so overhyped. Jacob, you talked about getting burned last year. people want him to take the next step, and that's supposed to just be the new norm. Like that's the narrative people are pushing. Well, in Buffalo, who takes the next step? And the way I look at it is, if Clyde Edwards does take the next step and he is really good, I think that takes a little bit away from Josh Allen. In Buffalo, I think we're going to have more of the same from last year. I think even if Singletary takes that backfield, I don't think either of them are like great. They're going to be good, which therefore relieves a little bit of pressure off of Josh Allen. But I still think that team as a whole is more dependent on Josh Allen than, say, Kansas City is dependent on Mahomes, because I think, what was it? In those games, we saw Matt Moore come in, and they still did just fine, put up points with Kelsey and Hill and all of those guys. So that's all I'm saying. I think Josh Allen in this moment means more to the Bills than Patrick Mahomes means to the Chiefs. And that's a really weird thing to say, because obviously Mahomes is like the biggest franchise named player in all of football right now. But in terms of fantasy and in terms of just how I see it, Josh Allen gets more workload than I think Patrick Mahomes does this year. So that's it. I'm done. Damon, first case in the books.
So you guys both make compelling arguments, right? You Gabe, you're basing your decision on rushing stats, right? Which is totally fine. But every year he ran for less yards. So I feel like fantasy football is a game of trends, and that's going to continue. And what's the big difference between 2019 and 2020? And I think that his success all came from Diggs. Diggs is being such a dynamic route runner. Getting other guys open, it opened everything up for him and just took him to that next step. But Diggs is injury prone. He gets injured a lot. Like last season, wasn't last season one of his best seasons?
Yes, his best season.
Yeah, his best season, right? And I'm not saying he's gonna get injured, but say he does, I think that entire offense kind of comes to a screeching halt. But like, say Tyreek Hill gets injured, Patrick Mahomes is gonna do what Patrick Mahomes does no matter what, and everybody on that team can go to the house, like just from 70 yards out. So I would give the edge to Mahomes slightly, just because of his supporting cast and the fact that the Bills are real now. So I know the coaching staff is like wants him to take less chances, run less, and that's true because every year he's ran less for less yards.
Okay.
Boom, boom, first round gavel, damn shoot in your mouth, Gabe. There you go.
All right, I see how it is. This is how we're gonna play, huh? We're gonna play dirty. All right, I'll show you. No, God, why am I getting so weird? Dang, man.
What's wrong with you?
All right, so first one goes Patrick Mahomes, and rightly so. You know, I'm going on a limb here because I know that it's very unlikely that there are other people out there that have Josh
It's
Allen
close though. Like, I wouldn't be mad at
Everyone
anybody.
has Patrick Mahomes, but it is close, and I think that needs to be talked about, and we talked about it here. So hopefully you take that into consideration when you're drafting your QBs. Obviously, Mahomes is going to go like 4 rounds before anybody else probably.
True.
Let's move on. Now we are going to talk about the man himself, quote unquote GOAT, however you want to call it. That's how I perceive. That's how I like to call it, because he is the GOAT in my eyes, and that is Tom Brady. Finished last year, I believe, as the number 8 fantasy QB, and that's where I have him this year at number 8. Jacob has him at number 13. Jacob, I went first with Josh Allen. I'll hand you the mic to be the first with Tom Brady. Why do you think Tom Brady deserves to be ranked QB 13 and not 8? Come on, bro.
I gotta hear this one.
Okay, so I think our list surrounding Tom Brady should be mentioned to give some context. All right. So why don't you list your 6 through 10 just to give some context?
Well, you're going to make me prove one of my points. Okay, fine. So 6 through 10, I have Kyler Murray. Sorry, I spoke his name earlier as the top 5. He was actually 6th for me. Then I have Russell Wilson, Tom Brady at number 8, Justin Herbert at 9, and Joe Burrow at 10. Which I'm a little skeptical of as I say that out loud for the first time. But I'll tell you why in a minute, because I have another guy right behind him who I like really well as well.
Yeah, so I have Kyler Murray at 6, Aaron Rodgers at 7. I have Joe Burrow at 8. I have Matthew Stafford at 9. I have Justin Herbert at 10. Tannehill at 11. Jalen Hurts at 12. And Tom Brady at 13. if you look at my list leading up to Tom Brady, there's a lot of players with rushing upside. So I have Jalen Hurts above him. I have Ryan Tannehill above him, who all had rushing upside. I think when it comes to Herbert, Stafford, and Burrow, that their situations, all three of those guys are in a situation where they're going to have so much, either a great offense that is going to lead to them being amazing fantasy quarterbacks, or they're just going to have so much volume because they're going to be throwing a lot and their defense is not going to be, on the field as much because they're going to get scored on a lot. Apparently we lost Demont here, but
we lost our judge.
I'm sure he'll be back in a minute. But when it comes down to it, I just think that the Bucs, and this isn't the determining factor, but like the only determining factor, but the Bucs have a great defense, right? I think the Bucs are more likely to have lower scoring games, which because their defense is so good, which is going to in turn lead to lower scoring for the offense. So that, considering the lack of rushing upside that the guys that I have, some of the guys that I have above him, so he literally has no rushing upside. And I think his offense is going to score less points than even, well, the Rams have a great defense as well, but I just think Matthew Stafford on the Rams, it's going to go blow up and be incredible. But then you have Burrow and you have Herbert, who are all in situations where they're going to have so much passing volume. So to me, it's not that there's something wrong with Tom Brady. It's just I can't put him above these other guys that I have listed, so he gets pushed down a little bit to me. It won't surprise me if Tom Brady's a top 7-8 quarterback because he's the GOAT and he has such amazing offensive weapons, but it's more about the guys that I can't put him past than him himself.
Jacob, that's all fair. I admire your argument, and I raise you this. Tom Brady has never had rushing capabilities. Now, yes, over his 20-year career, he has not always been great for fantasy. He's had, finished 15 before. He's finished 14 and 13, all over the place in the top 20. But he's also had plenty of seasons inside the top 5, and especially inside the top 10. He has been good enough to find himself steadily drafted from year to year for many years. And that's why we enjoy him, because although he's good in the NFL, he can occasionally be good for fantasy. Why I have him at number 8 is for a few reasons. Sure, no rushing capabilities. That sucks. This guy just won a Super Bowl. The Buccaneers are the first team in, I think, the Super Bowl era to return the entire offensive unit to the team again. So that doesn't include, we're talking about linemen here, obviously. We're talking about the running backs, Ronald Joneses and Leonard Fournette. They add Giovanni Bernard. But we're also talking about the tight ends, Gronkowski and O.J. Howard, who is also going to be healthy this year. But, man, when you have guys like Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, and my X factor in this argument, which is Antonio Brown, and I don't like to hear myself say it, but he's good, even as he gets up there in age. He's just good. All right. After acquiring Antonio Brown in week 8, he started his first game in week 9 of last year. Tom Brady had 5 games in which he threw over 340 yards. He also had 20 touchdowns in that span through weeks 9 through 16. That doesn't really matter because he also had 20 touchdowns weeks 1 through 8. He threw for 40 last year. But when Antonio Brown came, it added a whole new dynamic to that offense, and we saw Tom Brady truly emerge as an elite fantasy QB down the stretch. Those games were incredible. Although he had his big games early on in the season, I think he had a 5-touchdown game and a 3-touchdown game somewhere in there, weeks 1 through 8. He got more consistent after they acquired Antonio Brown, and because of that, I think the floor is. I'm stuttering over my words here, but because of that, I do think that when you have 3 guys like that on your team, it is Tom Brady's team, man. It's 100% his team. he can call the shots. Bruce Arians is going to let him do what he wants to do. He came to Tampa Bay because he wanted to throw the ball more in a Bruce Arians offense, and that's what he did last year. That's why he finished number 8. All right. Now, you brought up some of the guys that you want ranked in front of him, guys like Herbert and Burrow. Well, I don't want to say it because I don't want to speak ill will, but hey, Justin Herbert, he came in, he rocked the fantasy world by storm last year. I think the sophomore slump is coming. I'm not saying it's going to be big or dramatic. Obviously, I have him ranked I think I have him ranked 9. So I have him ranked right behind Tom Brady. But I just think his schedule is a little difficult. That's included for the entirety of the NFC or the AFC West. You already have your division where you face the Chiefs once and the Broncos once. They have good defenses. And then you're going to go out and you have to play Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Cleveland. Those are all great defenses. And I just think that schedule is really, really intense for Justin Herbert in year 2. So I expect him to take just a click back. But hey, not much because obviously you see that he's only ranked 1 behind Brady. Burrow, yeah, I think he's going to be great. But I'd like to see it first because of the knee injury. I just don't know what to expect. I know that they're going to throw the ball a ton because when he was there, they were throwing the ball more than Dak Prescott was. So, I mean, I like that upside, but there's just a lot of question marks with his knee, and I just want to see it first. But that's why I have him there. And then last but not least, I have Tannehill at number 11, who is actually a guy that we've talked a lot about, Jacob. And, yeah, there's totally a world where I see Tannehill making that jump into the top, I don't know. I could see him making a jump into the top 5 easy, considering he finished as the number 2 QB or the number 3 QB last year, I think, or something like that. And the number 2 QB when he came in for Marcus Mariota in 2019. So the guy's great, super consistent, and I think he's one of the guys that can make a jump. But since we're talking about Tom Brady, that's kind of where I'll end it. You can't have Antonio Brown, Mike Evans, and Chris Godwin and not throw the ball a ton. So that's it, Yeah, sure, they have a great defense, but just like Kansas City is going to beat up on teams every single week in and week out, they're just going to pour it on. Why can't Tom Brady do the same thing? So that's why I think Tom Brady is at number 8. And you have him at number 13. Damon, I'm done talking.
So the ruling is is Tom Brady, should he be at 8 or 13?
Basically, yeah. Basically,
or where do you see him falling closer?
Yeah.
So Tom Brady in a new system, learning an entire new system, finished number 8. He comes back with the same squad. Same squad with a full camp Antonio Brown, a healthy OJ Howard. He knows Bruce Arians' system more. I might be wrong, but there's no way he does worse than what he did last year. So unless Jacob is saying that he's gonna do slightly either what he did last year or better, and the other guys are just gonna finish more, I can see that's just what he thinks. But I don't see it. I see him finishing higher than your
13.
Burrow, Matt, all those guys right there.
No,
just
that's fair.
Because there's no change. There's no change, and he has a whole offseason of learning a system. And Antonio Brown's Antonio Brown. He can't hurt. So I think, he's closer to 8 than 13. That's my final ruling.
Final ruling.
Don't question it.
Don't question it.
No, that's fair. My main argument was just that the defense is going to be on the field a lot. They're going to keep them from being in high scoring games is all.
But Tom Brady has a history of running. Tom Brady runs up scores.
True. Yeah, you're right. So similar to my Patrick Mahomes thing where he doesn't want to come off the field.
Yeah, he don't want to come off the field.
You're right, Tom. And he does. He holds grudges and wants to beat up on teams that he has grudges against. So that's a fair point.
Well, it now is 1-1, and I'm pretty happy because I felt close in the Patrick Mahomes argument. And again, I just want to clarify for anyone that will eventually listen to this, because right now we only have 2 viewers, but for anybody who eventually listens to this, as they do, I do not think that, if I'm starting a franchise today, I'm picking Mahomes over Josh Allen.
Well, duh. We're just talking about the 2019 season.
Thank you.
But I don't blame you either way with the if you did take Josh Allen,
Yes.
I mean, in real football, you go Mahomes, but for a fantasy league, if you're doing a dynasty league and you think that Josh Allen's going to be better for the rest of his career, I don't blame you at all. Like, yeah.
True.
That's all I gotta say. All right. Well, it's 1-1. We're moving on. We're moving on. Let's talk about, because we just went through our top 10. Let's go ahead and do 10 through 15. I think that's where our next guy might fall, or I think he falls a little bit outside of that. So we're just going to run through our top 10 through 15 here really quick, or I should say 11 through 15. 11 for me was Ryan Tannehill. Jalen Hurts comes in at number 12. Ryan Fitzpatrick right behind him at 14. 15 is Matt Ryan. 16 is Carson Wentz. Jacob, what about you?
So at 11, I talked about this because it had Tom Brady involved, but I have Tannehill at 11, Jalen Hurts at number 12, Tom Brady at 13, Matt Ryan at 14, and Trevor Lawrence at 15. But the guy we're going to talk about next, Matthew Stafford, I have him at number 9.
At number 9, and I have him at number, what do I have him at? I have him at QB 17.
Wow.
So, yes, there's quite a discrepancy there, and that is the man formerly of the Detroit Lions, Matthew Stafford, who finds himself in Los Angeles for the Rams, baby. You think about that, man. They traded 2 first-round picks to get him, and here Watson and Aaron Rodgers, they can't even get anything. It's just crazy. I guess the asking price is just too high. But anyways, we're talking about fantasy production. We're talking about Matthew Stafford. And I literally have here in my notes, because I'm just going to be honest, I like other guys better, but I really don't have here. I don't have anything here. And this is kind of a weak argument, so you might take this one, Jacob, and I respect that. But it truly relies on the emergence of Cam Akers. Cam Akers is unquestionably right now, everywhere you see, he's a top 10 guy. And that begs the question if that's going to happen or not, because he had shades last year towards the end of the season where he was going to take off and he was going to be great. And hopefully that happens. If that does happen, though, I don't think we're going to – Matthew Stafford had a ton of passing volume in Detroit. Now, Jared Goff had a ton of passing volume in Los Angeles. However, I think they're doing things a little bit different. I think they're going to look to establish the run just a little bit more. And if that happens, I think that, Henderson is going to be involved still. I don't think it's going to be a committee full load, but I could totally see that team carrying the ball 30 carries a game. And when you talk about a team that has a tremendous defense, it's the Los Angeles Rams. Los Angeles Rams control games with their defense. We don't usually see them pouring on the points year in and year out. Jared Goff had that fluke year where everything was just going amazing, and he was in consideration for the MVP.
They run the clock out.
Yeah, the last 2 seasons, it hasn't really been the case. So with that being said, I mean, the defense and the emergence of Cam Akers, I think, severely hinder Matthew Stafford's fantasy relevance. And I'm not saying he's going to be bad. I'm just saying that there are guys, obviously, that I like better than him. I mean, we could touch on it really quickly. I know that we've been talking about our rankings, but I have him here at 17. I think the rookie Trevor Lawrence is going to emerge. I know that Carson Wentz has a new home, and that defense and within itself in Indianapolis is great, but I still think they're going to need to kind of, throw the ball a little bit more. And then, of course, Ryan Fitzpatrick and Kirk Cousins. Those are guys that I'm not terribly high on. I just have Matthew Stafford a little bit behind. I know that he's a better thrower than Jared Goff was, and I know that he's a better deep threat passer than Jared Goff was. I just don't think the opportunity is going to be there. I think LA is going to do something a little bit different than what we've been seeing, but at the core, they're going to control games with their defense, and they're going to pound it in the ground with their rushing capabilities, and that's why I think Matthew Stafford falls back in the rankings, QB 17. Jacob?
So I'm with you on the defense argument, but when Todd Gurley was the number 1 overall running back in fantasy football and real football, Jared Goff was a top 5 quarterback in fantasy football.
Checkmate. I can hear his voice, dude. He was getting pumped.
But also, I just look, Matthew Stafford is a great quarterback. He's been stuck in Detroit his whole career. They've held him back. Him and Sean McVay are apparently really good buddies. I just think, and I hate to say it as a Niners fan, but I think this offense is going to just go bonkers. So, considering all those things, I feel very, very optimistic about Stafford with the Rams for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't disagree with you. I like Cooper Kupp. I like Robert Woods. Those are guys that have always – I mean, Cooper Kupp had the blow-up year a couple of years ago. And Robert Woods is just like literally one of the most underrated wide receivers in fantasy football because he's so consistent, but he never just gives you that huge bang game that you want.
Yeah.
So I can see a world where that happens. And as I'm kind of like looking at my rankings right now, there are guys that I would maybe move back a little bit. And that's a guy like Kirk Cousins. And we could talk about that another day. I know that Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to throw the ball a ton. I know that Matt Ryan and Atlanta, that defense is going to be horrible. So they're going to throw the ball a lot. They lost Julio Jones. So I could see Matt Ryan even regressing a little bit. And that just means that Matthew Stafford can take a jump in my rankings. So where I have him now is QB 17. So I'll give you this last bit, and this might actually help Jacob. But I could see a world where easily Matthew Stafford jumps into the top 15 range. Because, I mean, guys, it's July 1st, right? Like, we have so much time, so much more information to consume. So, Dan, I think I just have to concede. But, yeah, I'll hear from you first, Devon. Go ahead.
Well, this is an easy one. I'm just going to start off with Jacob wins with that one. Because your main argument was Cam Akers and then them going a different route with the running back, and he kind of killed you with Todd Gurley. So, and I think that his offensive schemes were kind of hindered by Goff because I don't think Goff was ever the best quarterback. He's so stiff, and I just don't think he's.
Well, McVay elevated Goff.
He elevated him, yes, but the fact that he elevated him, but then the quarterback is supposed to go the other way. And
exactly, yeah.
So Matthew Stafford, I think, has that juice. Like he's a QB. He's going to finish top 10 this year, easy. With this cat, is Deshaun Jackson coming in healthy?
Yeah, he's healthy, but is he ever healthy? Like
no, but he's a deep threat, and Matthew Stafford.
Yeah.
And you're that's just somebody you got to guard.
And they got Van Jefferson, and they got Tyler Higbee, and they got a lot of weapons.
He has so many weapons, and I think McVay actually has like a baller in Matthew Stafford, like a tough dude, not scared of contact.
Yeah,
he'll wait to the last second until he gets popped to throw the ball down the field to Robert Woods. I just think and Cam Akers.
It also helps me that DeMont has Matthew Stafford on his Dynasty Superflex team, so he wants him to do well.
He's going to be a top 10 quarterback. There's no way.
I want that on the record. Top
10 quarterback, Matthew Stafford.
And I just think you guys think like
Kirk Cousins ahead of him. What?
Like
dude,
Stafford,
Kirk Cousins was top 7 last year.
Look, I think Stafford wants to prove to everybody like that he's the shit. So I think he's just gonna go crazy this year.
I will tell you this. Yes, I concede. But I can see a world right now where I can bump Matthew Stafford up to probably 16 above Trevor Lawrence, and I can knock back Kirk Cousins and Matt Ryan down a spot. But we'll save that for another day.
Yeah.
There you go. That one goes to Jacob. It is currently 2-1 in Jacob's favor. We're moving on to one of our last notable debates, and then we'll kind of just talk about a few guys who we really are excited about that we have ranked, maybe a little higher than we should. Is it biased? Who knows? But we'll also talk about guys who have the greatest chance of falling and rising, kind of like what we did with our risers and fallers. But before we do that, we're going to talk about Sam Darnold. I have him as QB number 21. Jacob has him cracking the top 20 at number 16. And I'm starting it off because I'm going to hit the ground running. Sam Darnold has never, ever finished better than the QB 24, and he hasn't even finished as the QB 24. He's finished outside the top 24 QBs for fantasy in his entire career. That's 3 straight years of just not goodness. So you bring him over. He finds love again with Robbie Anderson, who he had one of his best years with. I understand that. He still has to adjust to an entirely new offensive scheme. We'll see how that plays out. And just kind of looking at it, man, I mean, you look at Teddy Bridgewater. Teddy Bridgewater last year in Carolina was able to support 2 top 24 wide receivers. DJ Moore finished inside the top 20, and Curtis Samuel finished top 24, and then Robbie Anderson was like right behind that at 26. So he was able to support 3 good running 3 good, reliable wide receiver options for fantasy, and he finishes the QB 19. Now, sure, is Sam Darnold an upgrade? I don't know because he hasn't done it yet. There's nothing there that says he can do it other than he's set up to succeed. He has better weapons now than he has in all 3 of his years in New York. And,
Uh-oh. Looks like we lost Gabe for a second. So I don't know what happened to Gabe, but I'll go ahead and remove him real quick. And I'll just give my Sam Darnold pro argument really quick.
All right, go ahead.
And then I think our judge has to leave us as well. And I guess I'll have to carry the show by myself. No, but all right. So Gabe has him at 21, which is fair. And to me, he was with Adam Gase on the New York Jets for the past 3-4 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
The past 3 years. Nobody is going to thrive with Adam Gase as their coach. We've seen it with Ryan Tannehill. We've seen it time and time again. Like even non-quarterbacks, they go and have better luck, like Kenyon Drake after they leave Adam Gase, right? So I just think that Sam Darnold's on a new team, the best weapons he ever had. CMC, Robbie Anderson. I know DeMont hates Robbie Anderson, but DJ Moore, who's the rookie wide receiver they just
they got
Terrace Marshall.
Marshall.
So I just think fresh new start. He's away from Adam Gase and the Jets. He does have pressure on him, but I feel like if I were him, I would be feeling good. I'd be feeling relaxed. And just, and the coaches believe in him. They didn't draft another quarterback. He's their guy. So I just think the new fresh start and everything, he's going to do better. I know 16 is a little optimistic for Sam Darnold, but when the trade happened, I was tweeting like, Sam Darnold's going to do great. He's going to be top 15. So I can't say that stuff and then have him be like QB 25.
That's
so
true,
I have to back up my gut feeling that I initially had. So I originally had him like 20, and then I reassessed things and I moved him up. But this one, I'm okay going either way because 21 is more realistic, but I'm being optimistic in choosing 16 for Sam Darnold.
This is also an easy one.
What?
Because
hold on.
Both you guys are getting a life sentence because this man shouldn't be. He should be 25 or further down.
Oh wow! Okay,
yeah. Dude, how do you have him over Derek Carr? Justin Fields is like I'd rather have Daniel Jones.
I'd rather have Daniel Jones.
Yeah. Baker Mayfield.
So basically, this
Zach
is
Wilson.
I think Sam Darnold is like my dark horse of quarterbacks for 2021.
But
I just believe in him.
But if I were to pick from you guys, I would go Gabe just based because I think he has lower.
Fair.
Because you're right. You have to be optimistic because he's in the best situation that he's ever been. CMC is such an ultimate weapon that it might be kind of hard to fail with him. But if anybody could, it'll be Sam Darnold.
Yeah,
fair enough.
Fair.
I'll take it. So, Jacob, after now, we're essentially tied at 2-2. So here's what we're gonna do. We can kind of go back and look at a couple of our rankings. Kind of finish it out for us. I know that Damon had mentioned Derek Carr, and we hadn't really gotten into our 15 through 20, but obviously that's where Sam Darnold was for me. So in that 17 to 22 range, I have Trevor Lawrence, Matthew Stafford, who we talked about, Derek Carr. I have Derek Carr at number 19. He finished at number 13 last year. Did you guys hear the recent news by the way, Vic Tafur? He's a guy that I've always followed. He's a reporter for the Atlanta, but he's always on like NBC Bay Area. So he's always on that news that we watch. And he actually reported that this is Derek Carr's make it or break it year. This is his last year to either get the Raiders into the playoffs. And if they don't, reports are they're going to ship him out and they're going to invest in a new QB.
Wow.
That's sad. It's sad because I do think that Derek Carr's been good. I just don't think they've done a proper job of developing around him the best to their capabilities. But, man, Derek Carr finished as the number 13 QB last year. And this same thing can be said about a lot of people, or I should say a lot of other fantasy players. But, like, a lot of people out there like John Brown this year. a lot of people out there really think Ruggs is quote unquote a sleeper. He's going to kind of make the jump in year 2. Well, you can't just be high on those guys and not high on Derek Carr. Everywhere I see Derek Carr ranked right now, he's outside the top 20. And I get it. I talked about Teddy Bridgewater, being bad and Sam Darnold being bad, but yet still supporting players. I just think that Derek Carr is better than both of those quarterbacks. And I think he has the potential to really shine through, especially, we got a lot of hate. I guess we got a lot of Raiders fans in the club, guys, because they were after Jacob. They wanted to lynch Jacob, man. They were out there with pitchforks and everything in the comments that episode, and they were ready to put an end to him. And, rightly so, because you're wrong. Yeah, put an end to him, dude.
Oh, they said, never mind.
Turn around, Lenny. No, don't try to mess me up again, all right? That was a good one. But with that being said, I think Derek Carr, there's a world where he definitely can finish inside the top 15, and I just have him ranked a little bit outside there because there are guys that are a little bit more reliable. Matthew Stafford, Trevor Lawrence, who is a rookie, but he has rushing upside. And then Carson Wentz has done it before. He's won the Super Bowl, all that stuff. Matt Ryan, of course. So I can't push Derek Carr any further without being biased, but I definitely have him ranked, inside the top 20 at least. Anywhere you look, he's outside the top 22. So I think he's getting no help at all. He's getting a lot of shade. And for
I literally have him at number 20.
Yeah. So you have him ranked higher than even most people do. And then one other guy I'll mention, and actually I'm not even going to mention it because it's completely farce. There's no truth to it. I just think that Cam Newton gets a lot of hate over in New England. There's a very unlikely chance that he even starts week 1. And even if he makes it through like week 4 or 5, who knows what's going to happen to him in his career. But man, last year, dude, he doesn't get enough credit. Like for fantasy, he was pretty damn good. He got you a lot of rushing yards and he got you a ton of rushing touchdowns. I don't know if someone can look that up, but I'll look it up.
12 rushing touchdowns.
12 rushing touchdowns. And where did he finish last year in terms of fantasy success? I think he
also missed a lot of games. Though.
And he missed games for COVID. Mm-hmm. So I just think he gets a ton of flack. But also he threw a ton of receptions and supposedly he didn't support the receivers that much. But they didn't really have a lot of receivers. Their Patriots this year, they went out, they invested in not great wide receiving options, but better than what they had. Jacoby Myers is supposed to break out this year. A lot of people think that. So, I mean, don't overlook Cam Newton. Like, I still think he's going to rush the ball. I still think they're going to use him in and around the goal line. And year 2 in a Bill Belichick system, I mean, come on. He's learning, right? Like, that's one of the most difficult systems to learn in the NFL. And he was a fantasy relevant quarterback last year, despite missing 4 games or 2 or 3 games, 2 games, I think. So be on the lookout for Cam Newton. Don't throw so much shade on his name. He could very well take a step forward. And because of that, I can see him finishing inside the top 15 as well, which is what he did last year, which makes him fantasy relevant also. Jacob, you got anybody that just really shoots out at you that you're like, man, I don't know why I have him ranked here. I really like this guy. Maybe I should push him further. I know that Sam Darnold, we were just talking about that. Or, another guy that might make the jump or might fall back. We talked about these guys a little bit in our risers and fallers. I know we talked about Derek Carr as a faller, which is why I'm coming to his rescue now. And then same with Ryan Tannehill. I talked about him as a faller, to which I got a lot of disrespect. But people don't know how to take sarcasm because that's their fault, so deal with it. But, man, the addition of Julio Jones, dude, Tannehill has been great for fantasy. Ever since he put on a Tennessee Titans uniform, he's been great. So I think he can continue to be great, and he can probably crack like top 6.
I have a few guys that I do want to bring up, but I think our judge has to head out of here before we get to that.
The judge has daddy duties, so I'm gonna head out, guys.
Thanks, man. We'll see you on the next pod.
All right, see you in the next one. Bye, fellas.
See you later, everyone. Peace out. It's the Monrix. That's a weird accent. Oh my god, Woo!
Check the private chat, Gabe.
We need to do like.
Demont, where can they find you on Twitter?
Yeah,
Big Daddy D 916.
I just think I'm getting rusty, man. We need a better host in here. No, you know what? No, I'm great.
Yes,
thank you.
You're a great
I need to
host.
give myself more confidence. Go ahead, Jacob. Talk about your few quarterbacks that you got your eyes on.
I chose you to be the host, man. So in turn,
right, let's not get too personal.
Go ahead. That means you're great because it was my decision. No, so all right. There's a few guys that I'm assuming that people would be like have a head turn when they see in my rankings, like, that's a little too high, or why is that guy there at all? One of them I think is Joe Burrow. I have him at number 8, which I thought you were going to have him a lot lower, but I believe you have him at 9.
I think I have him at 10 actually. Let me see. Or 9. 9. Yeah, I have him at 9.
Okay, so I have Joe Burrow.
No, I have Joe Burrow at 10.
Still, I think we're both higher than consensus. I have Joe Burrow at number 8. And look, he didn't play all year. He got injured. He had a lot of passing volume, which led to fantasy points, but he wasn't the most efficient quarterback last year. I understand this. But I just think you add his buddy, Jamar Chase, who combined together, they had arguably the greatest college football quarterback wide receiver duo season of all time. You bring him in. Even if you didn't add Jamar Chase, I would still be like super high on Joe Burrow, probably rank him in the top 12 for sure. So you add you add Jamar Chase to this receiving core. To me, it elevates Joe Burrow even more. He had like 50, 60 pass attempts in a few games last year. I think the volume's going to be insane. They're going to be in shootouts in almost every game. And I think that is going to lead. And he can rush. He's not a great rusher, but if he can get you, 300-400 yards on the ground, maybe 3 or 4 rushing touchdowns, which I think he had 3 last year in only like in the games he played. So I think Jamar Chase, the Bengals offense, it's all going to just go bonkers next year. So that's why I have Joe Burrow at number 8. And I know that's a bold call, but I don't feel like I'm not scared of that call. Like I feel pretty good about it. Another one, you talked about Derek Carr, which look, we say unbiased fantasy advice, but we love talking about our teams. Not that we're going to be biased necessarily towards them, but we love talking about our teams. Like, look, when I'm giving other people advice, I'm going to be as unbiased as possible. But when I do my personal dynasty league, I'm going to be biased as hell and draft Trey Lance way higher than I should because that's my fantasy team. If it hurts me and I lose money because of it, that's my fault. But when I'm giving people advice, I'm going to try to be as unbiased as possible. But on my rankings, I have Trey Lance at number 17, and I do not have Jimmy Garoppolo on the rankings. I think that whether Trey Lance starts at the beginning of the season or he comes in, look, I think it's a high possibility that the Niners go 3-2 and they're not happy with it, or they go 2-3 to start the season. Their bye week is week 6. They come back week 7 against the Colts. That is not a great matchup to start your rookie quarterback, but I think that if they're not happy with the first 5 games of the season, that we could see Trey Lance in week 7. And from that point on, I think he's going to have something similar or better than Lamar Jackson's first year when he took over for Joe Flacco when he didn't play the whole year. Something similar to that. But obviously, it's not going to be the whole season. So I think he's going to be so good that even playing only 12 games, he's going to end up around QB 17. If I was projecting him to play the whole season, I would have him higher. Look, I know people can call me a homer, but I think this guy's going to go nuts. I think he's going to go nuts and take the fantasy world by storm. I really, really do.
That is a good hot take. But hey, if we were given the information right now that Trey Lance was going to start week 1 for the San Francisco 49ers, which I think is unlikely, I'd say probably like 70% sure.
Yeah, I don't think so. But
Jimmy G starts.
Possible.
But if he was, where would you have him ranked then?
So I'd have to take a little more time, but
just ballpark it.
So I have him at 17. I think I would move him to 14.
Okay.
Right behind Tom Brady. Right behind Tom Brady, above Matt Ryan. which is not crazy. Like, obviously, I'm not going to say he's going to be a top 8 quarterback. But I would say I would move him up to 14 comfortably.
Comfortably. That's not bad. To touch on Joe Burrow really quick, I know you mentioned him, and I've had, in the last 5 minutes, I've had a mini panic attack, and I've decided I really don't like what I have projected for Joe Burrow right now. I do think that there's a world. I would honestly, right now in this moment, feel totally fine putting someone like Ryan Tannehill, who I have ranked right behind him, in front of him, which would push Joe Burrow down to number 11. I feel like Jalen Hurts and Matt Ryan could also go there, which I would believe Joe Burrow falls out of the top 12 and probably right around 13, 14. So I love the potential like you were talking about.
Well,
but
13, 14 is still pretty high.
Because it is. It's very high, very high. A lot of places that I see him right now, he's like maybe 18, mostly 20-ish, somewhere around there. But with that being said, I pride myself in fantasy on drafting certainties. I don't like the unknown. I don't like what could be, especially
unless it's a late round pick or
unless it's a late round pick, which I don't think Joe Burrow is going to be a late round pick. I think he's going to be one of the first 10 or 11 QBs off the board, probably 12 or 13, which is where I would probably have him ranked right about now. But I like known commodities, especially in redraft. And I wouldn't touch Joe Burrow this year, but I'll be happy to see him succeed. So with saying that, my own moral compass comes in, and I move him out, and I'll have to stat him a little bit.
Moral compass? What, you think it's wrong? You're sinning by having Joe Burrow so high?
I mean, man, that's high. Now that I'm looking at it, and it's high. It's really
Fantasy
high.
Sins. There we go. It's our new show.
Sins, baby. Oh, that'd be good. What would we talk about in Fantasy Sins?
Like
I broke my brother's leg so I could win. I had to sacrifice
things like that. Make a trade ripoffs.
True.
Drafting Trey Lance higher than you should. We'll figure it out.
Tons of stuff. Be on the lookout. Fantasy Sins coming 2022.
Yeah, we're changing our whole name to Fantasy Sins. There we go. No, just kidding. Just kidding. Don't take
that was the quickest turnaround. We're changing our whole name. Just kidding. You didn't even finish your sentence.
I don't want people to think that.
Yeah, well,
just kidding.
All right. Well, all right, folks. Those were pretty much our individual QB rankings. We talked about the guys who we have the biggest discrepancies with. We hope that you found some valuable information. Even if you want to shoot us some criticism, or if you want to stay around and let us know how you feel, always be sure to like and subscribe. We appreciate it so much. We're only getting better. We do this because we love it, because we have fun, and we enjoy fantasy football. We hope that you do too. So grow with us, learn with us. It's all fun when we do it together, and we appreciate you for that. You can find us anywhere you get your podcasts. I'm not going to spend the time listing them all out. You can also find us on social media, Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook at First Round Fantasy. You can also find us at our individual Twitter handles at Gabe FRF Sports and at Jacob FRF Sports. We're always talking about crazy stuff on Twitter because no one listens to us, so we can just say whatever we want and get away with it. I love it. That's why. We're getting there, Jacob. We're getting there. Thanks to Damon for stopping by. He's usually always here till the end, but hey, when you have kids, life happens. And with that being said, guess what, Jacob? What's next?
What's next?
Yeah, what's next?
You tell me. You tell me, boss.
I was going to say be simple. But running backs, man. Running backs. We're getting into running backs.
Running back rankings.
Quarterback rankings this week. Running back rankings next week.
Well, possibly It's Personal podcast coming soon. Maybe drop on Monday.
Be on the lookout for that. We drop them like they're hot whenever we feel like it. Soon to be confirmed schedule.
We had some big trades in our Dynasty League. 3 big trades in our Dynasty League. We'll be talking about that on the next It's Personal podcast.
Yeah, we're working behind the scenes on getting some really cool visuals and things like that for that podcast as well. But with that being said, that's it. Like, subscribe. Hope you got some knowledge today. Enjoy your beautiful 4th of July weekend, and we'll catch you next time on the First Round Fantasy Podcast. Peace.